Ciaccona has been revealed, so let's talk about her. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So right off the get-go, I just have to say this. This character looks incredible. Like, I really like this character. We didn't know about her at all whenever Renacita was first coming out. Our first real exposure to the character has only been recently in the 2.2 story, and then there was also that little trailer that was released a bit before 2.2 where we did get to see a bit of her face. Now, as somebody who likes Donjin, I was already immediately in love with this design because I was like, hey, cool, she kinda looks like a 5-star Donjin. And she also just features some general things that I really like in a character design. She has some really cool silver horns. They're very unique. I'm incredibly intrigued by them. Super happy that they included that. The striking red hair against the beautiful forest green that they use is just, oh my goodness, it's an absolute chef's kiss. And just in my personal opinion, I feel like she fits the whole fantasy vibe of Renacita very well. She absolutely feels so at home in this region. So needless to say, she is 100% a must-pull for me. I really want her. I'm thinking S0R1, that's probably what it's gonna be. I would like to get the R1 because, like I said, I really enjoy the character design, and I assume that her weapon aesthetics are going to match that very nicely, though we'll have to wait and see what the effects are and whatnot whenever those get revealed. The shade of green that they used is just gorgeous as well. You know, the funny thing is, I realized recently how much I like the color green. I never really noticed it until now, but then I look at all of my favorite characters and I notice how all of them have some sort of shade of green in them, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I think I like this color quite a bit. Yellow's my favorite color, but I always consistently find myself being drawn to these characters with these nice, cool green designs. It's just a very nice color palette. I'm really into it. Also just, wow. The artistry here for the actual drip art is, wow. I am blown away. It is gorgeous. It's quite frankly enchanting. It fits the character perfectly. She looks like some sort of enchanted character herself. It absolutely works. It absolutely fits the aesthetic. I'm just look at the colors. It's gorgeous. Really, I have to give kudos to Kuro Games for just constantly delivering amazing looking drip marketing. The art is improving every single time. I thought Zani's drip marketing was good, and it still is, of course. It's absolutely sick, but goodness me, they blew it out of the water again. Gorgeous drip marketing. So what can we say about what she might potentially do? Well, there's a few things. First of all, Kuro has already confirmed her to be an arrow unit, and she's going to be a pistol user, so that means we're gonna have another 5-star pistol user joining the fray. So that means that the esteemed Montelli Lady Carlotta is no longer alone in that regard. I'd also like to point out how this character is arrow. Now I know what you might be wondering. Juice, why does that matter? Why is that important? Well, let's think about it like this. Recently, especially whenever Phoebe released back in 2.1, Kuro began to shill negative statuses. They started to introduce them more into the game, they added Spectrofrazzle to Spectro Rover's kit upon 2.0's release, and they've just generally been putting the building blocks in place for negative statuses. Even if you take a look at all of the Renacita craftable weapons, all of them have some sort of synergy with negative statuses. So where am I going with this? Well, if Phoebe was the beginning of the Spectrofrazzle meta, and if Zani, who was recently confirmed to be Spectro, is most likely going to be a teammate for her, then that leads me to believe that Ciaccona is going to be an arrow erosion unit. Kuro Games hasn't touched upon that negative status whatsoever yet. Now I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that we recently got Arrow Rover, a character who is able to deal in arrow erosion shenanigans. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like the fact that Ciaccona is an upcoming Arrow 5-star means that she's probably gonna want to use Arrow Rover. I doubt that she's going to be a regular traditional arrow DPS, because we already have that archetype covered in Gion, who's still a very good unit right now. Not to mention how, at least as of now, Arrow Rover doesn't have any prominent use cases in the game. Now, yes, you can use Arrow Rover with Gion, but he's generally just way worse than using Mortefi with him. Not to mention how Mortefi is just always on Gion banners, so you don't really have a reason to use Arrow Rover with Gion specifically, unless you just want to look at those really cool animations. So I think it's only natural that Ciaccona is going to be Arrow Rover's best insult synergy upon her release. We obviously don't have anything to back that up, but I do think that the release of Arrow Rover does indeed hint towards this possibility. I do actually hope that this is going to be the case because I personally have indeed been waiting for arrow erosion to get focused on. I love arrow, it is one of my favorite elements in Wuthering Waves, so I do hope that it gets some spotlight. Also, just to throw a personal opinion in there, I think that Arrow Rover is just really cool, so any reason to use him is just an absolute plus to me. Granted, that is another team which is going to want Rover, which is a little bit rough. However, I would assume that later down the line, they're probably going to release another Arrow Erosion support that's going to be able to replace Rover, so that you'll be able to play Ciaccona without Rover in the team, but this is assuming that she's going to be an Arrow Erosion DPS, because this hasn't considered the possibility of her potentially being an Arrow Erosion support. Now, they could go down the Phoebe route, where instead of making her just a DPS or just a support, they make her both. That way, on release, you're able to play her as a main DPS, and then whenever more Arrow Erosion synergies open up down the line, you're able to choose what suits your personal playstyle best. It would be a little bit awkward if they only made her a support upon release, because while that would indeed be building towards the future, it would mean that upon a release, you wouldn't have any major use cases. But I imagine that if Kuro Games did go down that route, they would probably release the accompanying DPS very soon afterwards. I would also like to talk a little bit about her release timing. So here's the thing. Ciaccona is coming out during the Wuthering Waves 2.3 anniversary. Very big deal, very big event. I personally cannot wait for it. It is going to be a great time. It is going to be a very celebratory time. However, she is coming right after Zani, a very hyped up character. Literally everybody and their mother is going to be pulling for her. I don't think I know a single person who isn't going to be doing so. So funds are going to be exhausted by the time that this character rolls around. So perhaps she could end up being free. I'm not sure, I doubt it. But considering the release timing, I don't think that it's too far-fetched. It could actually happen. I'm not going to count on it. I'm going to continue saving my astrites as if I'm going to pull for her, because I absolutely really want this character. However, it is a possibility, just throwing it out there. I believe that this is absolutely the next step in the negative status's direction. I really do hope that they go down that route. I don't really see whatever type of kit that they would want to give her. It just lines up way too perfectly to give her a kit that is centered around negative statuses. And personally, I'm just a huge GOT fan. I absolutely love the team archetype, I love the playstyle, and I would love to see more of it. So I am hoping that that is indeed the direction that they're taking with this character, especially because I'm so personally fond of her. Now, Arrow Rover does have a mechanic in which he's able to convert other negative statuses into Arrow Erosion. I'm not sure if it's going to play any part in Ciaccona's teams, but I'm bringing it up as food for thought, because I don't know if it's actually going to affect anything in regards to Ciaccona, but hey. For all we know, she might even end up having some interaction with Spectral Frazzle. We really don't know as of now. If Kuro delving more into Arrow Erosion does end up being the case, then I am really looking forward to seeing how they handle it. Spectral Frazzle and everything surrounding it was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Phoebe's release, I really enjoyed playing around with her, and so far, negative statuses have just been a blast in general. Now, I will say, I do really hope that one day we can end up getting a negative status team in which the main source of the team's damage is the negative status. Because as it currently stands, Phoebe, for example, she utilizes negative statuses, but she herself is still a crit DPS. I would love to see something like, you know, an attack scaling unit that doesn't build crit and is a true DOT DPS by only really dealing the main portion of her damage through the negative statuses that are applied on enemies. One team comp that I really hope Kuro leans into someday is where the second slot teammate is the one applying a lot of the negative status, all the Arrow Erosion, all the Spectral Frazzle, and then the first slot teammate would be the one proccing it and causing it to be enhanced in some way so that it instantly deals a good amount of damage. I will say I would like to see her a little bit more in the story because we didn't really get to spend much time with her in 2.2. Granted, she did serve her purpose, she did help us out for those of you who've played the story, but I don't know, just being able to spend some more time with her would be a delightful time. Here's hoping that she gets a companion quest or that she gets spotlighted in an event or something like that. I will say, it's pretty funny that she's a pistol user, because at least when I look at her, she kinda looks like a longbow user, or something like that. You know what I mean? She kinda feels like she would use a more fantasy-esque weapon, so it's gonna be pretty funny to see her use a gun. I do hope that it matches her aesthetics, but so far, the signature weapon designs in Wuthering Waves have all just been absolutely gorgeous in terms of visuals, so I see very little reason as to why they would disappoint with Ciaccona. There actually is another little thing that I'd like to discuss in regards to her potentially being a support. You see, Arrow Rover is able to work with Gion. Granted, it's quite a cope synergy, it is definitely not recommended by any means, but it is indeed something that works. If Ciaccona does end up being an Arrow Erosion support upon release, is she going to be able to work in Gion teams in any way, shape, or form, considering that they found a way to take a modern kit design like Arrow Rover and make them work with the first ever limited character that ever got released in this game? There is a chance that perhaps she could end up working with Gion. I honestly wouldn't really count on it. It is most definitely not going to be at the top of Kuro's priority list. In fact, there is a very high chance that that is not going to be a thing whatsoever. I just brought it up as food for thought, considering that Arrow Rover does in fact work with Gion. I also don't think that new Aero Erosion teams are going to power creep Gion because they use entirely different teammates. They're going to use Aero Rover, they're going to use Ciaccona, they're going to use whoever else wants to take advantage of that particular negative status, whereas Gion only wants his good buddy Mortefi, so I feel like he's pretty safe in that regard. Granted, I could just be coping because I really like Gion, but I don't know, I don't really feel like he's going to suddenly fall off and never be usable again once Aero Erosion teams take the stage. But other than that, I feel like Kuro Games really knocked it out of the park again with another beautiful Rinascita character. I absolutely love the character design. I think that if Kuro does indeed take the negative status route for her, they're going to be able to expand that particular mechanic a lot, and it's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see what they do with Aero Erosion, if that is indeed what Kuro decides to do with her. Or shoot, maybe I'm going to end up being completely surprised. None of these guesses are going to have any merit, and I'm going to be blown away by some totally unique different kit that I just wasn't expecting whatsoever. Honestly, man, I'm just gonna let Kuro cook. I'm definitely pulling for her. I really want the character. She just looks so damn good. Fits the magical landscape of Rinascita down to a T. I'm really happy that Kuro didn't show all of her cards when Rinascita was first coming out. It felt like they showed us a lot, but they didn't show us everything, and it seemed like Ciaccona was up their sleeve, and I am so pleasantly surprised by this character. Really looking forward to her. How about yourself? Are you gonna be pulling, or is it a total skip on your end? Let me know down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week every week on Saturdays, starting from free PvK time. Come along so that we can play Wuthering Waves, ZZZ, and do some other fun stuff together. Hopefully this video was able to feed you some excitement for Ciaccona. This has been Juice, signing out, and it seems that I just really enjoy wind bards.